Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm bringing to you guys is a video on some of the very exciting new armor sets and gear drop sets that are going to be coming with the brand new expedition. Now in the comments here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Reddit, and even when streaming live on Twitch, I've had lots of players asking, if I'm an endgame player, what is the point in completing the regular version of the new expedition? Now, for a first while, before I'd done a little bit of research here, I agreed with you. I thought, well, you know, other than to experience it, there isn't too much point. However, this is where these gear sets do come in. These are dropped, obviously, at your expertise level, depending on what that is, from the bosses and some of the mobs and such within this brand new expedition. And as you can see as a sneak preview on screen of the first set we're going to be looking at here, which is the Raiders set, the Raiders hat is actually incredible. It is a medium strength based one, but it's got resilience, refreshing, and freedom on, which is pretty much going to be best in slot. So what I'm going to do is walk you guys through some of these sets, talk about what they are and also where they dropped. Obviously, we're using New World Database, so this will be linked in the description down below should you guys want to check it out for yourselves. If you are wanting to look up any of the sets I'm using today, you have to click on the PTR version rather than live, because it defaults to live, obviously. And the PTR one shows you all the things that are currently on the test realm. And before we fully jump into the video, if you haven't already done so and you do want to see more New World content, then please do go down below and press the big red subscribe button. It is completely free and you can always change your mind later should you wish to do so. And if you do go on to enjoy the video, don't forget to drop me a like down below as well, as it massively helps to support my channel here on YouTube. And without further ado guys, let's jump into it. So the first thing here we're going to be covering is the Raider set. The Raider set, like I said there, is a medium strength set. As we can see, their helmet here is 25 strength. Obviously, again, upgraded would be further, so you can use Umbra on this if you're 590 plus. You get on it resilience, refreshing, and freedom, which is by far best in slot. And this is dropped from Headman Pang in the brand new expedition. Now we're going to also look at the Raiders coat. So this is all part of the same set here. This one is corrupted resistance, refreshing, freedom. So no resilient on this one. Resilient is pretty important, but the refreshing and freedom is very, very nice. However, if you're running medium, you're probably going to run some pieces that are going to be heavy, some light, some medium, mix and matching, right? But yeah, this is a pretty good piece overall. And again, it is dropped by Ekike in the Corrupted Expedition, the brand new one as well, the Tempest Heart. So again, not all the same mob, but they are in that expedition. The pants here are Corrupted Resistance, Refreshing, and Freedom, and are dropped by Ozret, which is again another one of the mobs inside there. The boots, we've got Elemental Aversion, Refreshing, and Freedom, and these bad boys are dropped by Crewman Alvaro, again another one of the bosses. And this one is where we've seen Elemental Aversion for the first time. This is pretty good. The Corruption Resistance will be good for the expedition, particularly when it becomes mutated, so it's not going to be bad for PvE. But these boots, and of course the helmet we saw at the beginning, are also really, really good for PvP, which could make them best in slot by a long way. Do bear that in mind, you might want to switch out depending, you know, upon what your set currently is. Then finally here we've got the gloves. These bad boys have got corruption resistance on again, but they are refreshing and freedom, so if you don't have anything better, still pretty good. And like I said, for the PvE, if you're going to make a PvE specific set, these are pretty good. And these finally are dropped by Verrogue, which is again another one of the bosses within the final Tempest Heart expedition. And I believe these are dropped on the regular mode as well. There's nothing to say that it's specifically for the mutated version. So it looks like if you've got a decently high expertise, most people at endgame now being at that 600 or even above that with increased umbral levels, you're going to be getting some pretty good drops here that you might want to level up because they're pretty good. Next here then we're moving on to something for my light players. This is going to be the Tactician's set, which is a light dexterity set. So, you know, things like your bows, your muskets mixed in with a bit of int. This is going to be a pretty good set for all of those guys there, and this one is Refreshing Aversion, Invigorated, and Resilient on the helmet here. This is dropped by Crewman Ruiz, again, Tempest Heart. They're all going to be Tempest Heart, so I'm going to stop saying that now, but every single one of these mobs is going to be in that final expedition. Then we've got, of course, the shirt here. The shirt is Physical Aversion, Refreshing Evasion, and Invigorated, and again, is dropped by High Priestess Eiffel. Then we have the pants here. These ones are Elemental Aversion, Refreshing Evasion, and Invigorated. And these are dropped by High Maiden Lay. Again, this whole set seems to be Refreshing Evasion and Invigorated with some other good stuff on here as well. The other evasions, Physical, Elemental. This one's Corruption Resistance with Refreshing Evasion and Invigorated. And they're the shoes, and that's dropped by Headman Pang. And then finally here we've got the gloves. These ones are Physical Aversion, Refreshing Evasion, and Invigorated, and they are dropped by High Priest Basir. Now, again, with this stuff, it's really going to be a fairly decently low drop chance, but it is going to be worth getting, and some of these mobs, you'll see the same names popping up again and again. So when you do go through this expedition, you are going to have the chance at getting several good items from each of the bosses, or some of the elite mobs that are in there, kind of the mini-bosses type things. So do bear in mind, that is why it's going to be really worth it to run, and you're probably going to be able to sell your keys for a good amount if you're someone that wants to do that as well, based off this, because a lot of players are going to be going for these sets. Now, the next one we're looking at here is the Wizened Set. This is a light intelligence set, so for all the mages out there that are rocking the light armor, this one is for you. Now, we're seeing an introduction of a brand new perk here, which is Critical Retribution. This one is where on a critical taken, you gain a 9.4% increased critical chance for 7 seconds. Now, this is pretty good. However, it does have a 20-second cooldown. That being said, in any OPR or war, that is still going to be really, really good, and is probably going to be best in slot or one of the very good items, making this set actually pretty good, especially the hat here. So obviously with the refreshing there for the cooldown reduction and the elemental aversion, it's actually really decent, so you are going to probably want to grind this out. Again, this one is dropped by Varogue, so again, Tempest Hat Expedition for all of these drops again. Looking at the shirt, then the shirt has Shirking Fortification, and again, another new one here for those of you that haven't seen. This one is where dodging through an enemy attack grants Fortify, increasing damage absorption by 3.8% for 6 seconds. Each armor piece with this perk increases the potency of its effect. So obviously, you could have basically up to 5 times stacking, which would be just shy of 20%. You're looking at about 18.5%. Which is pretty good. So if you do end up stacking this on all pieces, it would be great. But even just on a couple, you get a good amount of fortification. And again, on the light set, dodging through, this is going to be great. Again, paired with refreshing and elemental aversion. And this one is dropped by Ekike. And then we're moving on to the pants. These ones, again, are Shirking Fortification, so that means you'll have at least 2 stacks there, so you'd be on 7.6%. And then you've got refreshing and you've got elemental aversion. And this one is dropped by Urzret. Then the shoes here, we've got Shirking Energy, again a new one, so this one is if a hit is avoided by dodging while in a light equip load, you gain 28 stamina on a 6-second cooldown. Again, really, really good perk. This is going to be brilliant for those people that, particularly in wars and outpost rush, this is going to be useful, but even in expeditions, just dodging out the way of attacks, every 6 seconds it's going to grant you extra stamina, which essentially is going to give you a 3rd roll if you don't have Hearty, or maybe even a 4th roll if you do, pretty quickly or even instantly in some situations. So again, really decent to have on the set with refreshing and elemental aversion, and this one is going to be dropped by Crewman Alvaro or Cutthroat Eduardo. And finally here for the Wizened Set, the gloves, we've got Shirking Fortification again, so that's a triple stack with just this set, which is pretty cool. Refreshing and elemental aversion on there, and this one is dropped by Crewman Ruiz. So pretty good set. Again, light intelligence. Any mages out there, this is probably something you're going to want to get your hands on. Now, if the healers were feeling a little bit left out there, we've got something for you guys here. This is going to be a light focus set. This one is going to start off with the shirt here. This is going to have on it Shirking Fortification, refreshing, and elemental aversion. Now, this one is going to be dropped from High Priestess Ifel. And again, all of these are going to be in the Tempest Hat Expedition. Again, the second piece here, the hat, this has got Fortifying Sacred Ground, Refreshing, and Elemental Aversion, and is dropped by High Priest Basir. The pants then, these have got Mending Protection, Refreshing, and Shirking Energy, and is dropped by High Maiden Lay. The shoes here have Accelerating Light's Embrace, Refreshing, and Elemental Aversion, and are dropped by Headman Pang. And finally, the Sagacious gloves. These have Shirking Fortification, Refreshing, Elemental Aversion, and they are dropped by Headman Pang as well. So again, a pretty good set, especially for those light healers out there. This is going to be a pretty good mix-up. Obviously, you're not going to use the full sets from some of these, because usually you'd combine a full light set with a medium chestplate to get the most armor. But, of course, mixing and matching parts of these sets as well is also going to be really, really good, because a lot of them have some great, great perks on. Now, we've looked at light and medium sets. Here, we're going to be looking at a heavy set, and it's going to be the Conquerors, which is a heavy Constitution set. This one comes with Resilient, Refreshing, and Vigor, and is dropped by High Priest Basir. Then we have the Breastplate for this one, where it comes with Physical Aversion, Refreshing, and Vigor, and again, is dropped by High Maiden Lay. Again, this set is going to come with Refreshing and Vigor on every single piece, with Constitution, obviously, so it's pretty good. Then we're looking at the Greaves here. These ones have Physical Aversion, Refreshing, and Vigor, and are dropped by Crewman Ruiz. The Boots have Corruption Resistance, Refreshing, Vigor, and are dropped by High Priestess Ifil. And finally, the Gauntlet here, which has Elemental Aversion, Refreshing, Vigor. And finally, down the bottom here is dropped by Crewman Alvaro and Cutthroat Eduardo. So again, any heavy guys or any medium players that want some heavy pieces, this is going to be pretty cool. It's got Constitution on, and most of the perks on these are pretty good. So it's going to be certainly a worthwhile set going for in this new expedition for the heavy guys too. And to finish it off here, also, another heavy set that's going to be worth going for. Another heavy con set, in fact. But this one is Refreshing Ward and Freedom. And then has Physical Aversion on as well on the helmet here. Now, this obviously is called Neishatun Set. So, all of these drops are going to come from Neishatun themselves. So, you will have to grind this a few times to get these drops. But it is going to be worth it. This is a very, very good set. This one's Physical Aversion, Refreshing Ward, and Sturdy Energy. Now again, Sturdy Energy is a new perk, so this is when blocking a hit while below 30% stamina, you gain 38% increased stamina regen for 6 seconds. And it does not trigger if exhausted. For those that don't know, exhausted is when your stamina bar is all the way to 0 and he's going back up in that grey state. So it won't trigger then, but the rest of the time it will, which is pretty good. It's going to be great for tanks particularly, but also really great for any bruisers that block attacks and such like that. So great set. Now we're looking here at the Greaves. These ones have Physical Aversion, Refreshing Ward, and Invigorated. Then the Boots here, these ones have Elemental Aversion, Refreshing Ward, and Vigor. And then finally the Gauntlets, which have Elemental Aversion, Refreshing Ward, and Empowering Breaker. Empowering Breaker is when your attacks are blocked, gain a stack of Empower, increasing your damage by 3.8% for 5 seconds, with a maximum of 5 stacks. Again, which would just get this up to just shy of 20%. So it can actually be pretty good, and you could even farm this up as a heavy or medium bruiser if you were going to have heavy gloves in that build, by blocking some attacks from mobs and then unleashing a deadly attack for the next 5 seconds, dropping a couple of abilities, something like that, because this is actually a pretty good perk. So overall, again, another really good set, and that is going to be it for today. There is, of course, some extra weapons coming in, some extra jewellery, which I could cover in another video if you guys would be interested in seeing that, so do let me know down below in the comments. Other than that, if you have enjoyed, please do be sure to drop a like and a subscribe if you haven't done so down below on today's video. And other than that, guys, I'll thank you for your time, thank you for watching, and I will catch you again very, very shortly with a brand new upload. Take care, guys, and peace.